And then Rossellini made a film about having faith, the embracing of faith. With Fellini, he adapted Flowers of St. Francis, a book that was written in the 14th century. In the aftermath of the world tragedy, St. Francis's example of unconditional love for every living thing had a sense of real urgency. I'd never seen the life of a saint treated on film with so little solemnity and so much warmth.
Tanto sta su!
Ma cosa vuoi, fratello?
Quanto sei bello!
Che cosa vuoi?
Voglio parlare col capo.
Parla con me, la stessa cosa.
Voglio restare con Francesco.
E di questo bue che cosa vuoi farne?
Lo voglio dare ai fratelli.
Ma...
Il nonno è impazzito! È un vecchio rimpezzito!
Ma sì, ma che cosa?
Non possiamo regalare una vacca!
Ma noi non ne abbiamo bisogno. Di lui mi prendo cura io,
Sì, tenete dritto!
Ma tu stando in mezzo a noi dover lavorare più di prima.
Sì, voglio
I tuoi
lavorare.
parenti dovranno essere come morti. E stare in mezzo agli umili per predicare, lavorare.
Predicare, lavorare, dire tutto cose.
Ma non ti è sembrato duro lasciare i tuoi familiari?
Tutto.
Ma che cosa vuoi da Francesco?
Voglio fare santo come Francesco.
Ma sono io, Francesco.
Oh, Francesco!
Eccoli, giungono!
Andiamo.
Flowers of St. Francis was shot in early 1950 in the mountains around Rome.
Ecco, abbiamo un nuovo fratello.
E come si chiama?
Giovanni.
Giovanni si chiama.
And Rossellini used real monks to play all the principal roles. The film consists of a series of episodes in the lives of St. Francis and his fellow brothers.
Che ti è successo? Ah, poverino, tutto infreddolito.
And these episodes play like little parables.
Ma che è successo?
Ho dato la tunica a un povero che mi ha chiesto la limosina.
Ma tu la tunica non devi darla.
Ma non mi hai detto altre volte che bisogna soccorrere i poveri?
Io ti comando per santa obbedienza di non dare più la tunica senza il mio permesso.
But this St. Francis is just the opposite of the somber saints with halos that we're used to seeing in other movies.
Il papo si è smorzato. Ginepro, Ginepro!
Rossellini made a film about a human being, but a human being who's struggling to be good.
Il fuoco. Com'è bello il fuoco!
Ma che succede?
Francis is alive to the beauty of all living things, including fire.
Ma che fai?
Ma perché sei stata avara con frate fuoco? Io lo amo perché è bello, iocundo, robustoso e forte. Sia lode a Dio per frate sole di giorno e per frate fuoco di notte.
Ma padre, il fuoco può farti del male.
E tu perché vuoi fare del male a frate fuoco?
Ma come staremo tutti?
The faith shared between Francis and his brothers is so great that there's room for all kinds of eccentric behavior. In this scene, the brothers are saying goodbye to Francis and going off for the day to preach.
Fratelli, Ginepro non può venire con voi con questo abito. Vi preparerà una bella cenetta.
Obbedisco, padre.
Brother Juniper is very upset. He's disappointed that he's the one who's gotten stuck with the job of staying behind to make the meals while everybody else goes out to preach. So he comes up with what he thinks is a terrific scheme. He takes all the food that was meant to last for 2 weeks, throws it into an enormous pot, and cooks it up all at once, thinking this is going to free him up to go out and start preaching.
Aiutami anche tu.
The old man, who's the newest and the most enthusiastic, and I must say, least intelligent of the brothers, is no help.
Che fai? Questo no! No! Prendi la legna.
Especially when he starts throwing the firewood into the pot, not into the fire where it should go. It's a calamity.
Ma no! Devi mettere la verdura!
La verdura, pronto, tu sei pazzo!
Lascia stare!
Ma tu sei pazzo!
Lascia stare! Non devi metterlo questo!
Ma che?
Ma che fai?
Francesco! Ballo, Francesco!
Che succede?
Ho preparato il pranzo per 15 giorni, così dopo ce ne andremo tutti a predicare.
Mio Dio!
Questa minestra farà bene al cervello. Dentro ci sono galline che vi renderanno umidi il corpo. Poi senza preoccuparsi più né di pranzo né di cena ce ne andremo tutti a predicare.
Francesco!
Senti, Ginepro, vieni. Ti do il permesso di andare a predicare. Però ti do l'obbedienza di cominciare così le tue prediche. Bo, molto dico e poco po'. Poiché è più utile predicare con l'esempio che con le parole.
Francesco! Francesco!
This saint, he lives and breathes. He suffers cold and hunger. And from time to time, he feels overwhelmed by the suffering of other people. For me, the most beautiful scene in the picture is the one in which Francis meets a leper. I'm not sure I've ever seen another film that portrays the reality of compassion with such eloquence. The terror of compassion, of contact that direct. In the end, the monks realize that they'll have to split up. It's the only way for them to spread their beliefs, each one venturing out on his own and performing simple acts of compassion. And I've always loved the way they decided which direction to take.
Siamo giunti, figliolo. È arrivata l'ora di separarci. Da questo momento ognuno andrà solo per il mondo a predicare.
Padre, per quale via dobbiamo noi andare?
Per quella che ci indicherà il
E
Signore.
come faremo a conoscere la volontà del Signore?
Io vi comando, per santa obbedienza, che voi viaggeriate nel luogo dove tenete i piedi, come fanno i fanciulli per gioco, e che non rischiate di volgervi su voi stessi finché non vi girerà la testa. Ma non ti gira la testa?
No?
Non ti gira ancora?
No?
Ma ti senti bene?
Ora mi gira!
Vieni Giovanni, vieni. Vieni.
Mi gira la testa!
E tu, Amazia bene, in verso dove sei caduto?
È in verso Sira come me.
E tu, Bernardo?
In verso Firenze.
E tu, Ginevra?
In verso Arezzo,
E tu, Elia?
in verso Pisa,
E tu, Ruffino?
in verso Spoleto,
E tu, Egidio?
in verso Foligno.
E tu, Giovanni, in verso dove sei caduto?
Ah, è in verso là dove c'è quel pinguello che saltella sull'erba.
E tu seguiterai quel pringuello che certamente è la via che t'ha indicato il Signore. Orsù, figli miei, spargetevi per il mondo e predicate la pace. Addio.
What would happen if St. Francis were alive in post-war Europe, where everyone was desperate to forget the war and return to normal? Would he be recognized as a saint, or would people just think he was crazy? Rossellini asked himself these questions with his next picture, in which he took a different approach to the idea of sainthood. He made a film that takes you through the process of someone actually becoming a saint in a world that didn't believe in them anymore.
I'm so sorry.
He called his film Europa 51.
How are you, dear? How are you?
Ingrid Bergman plays a British woman named Irene Girard. She's living a comfortable life in Rome with her husband George and her son Michel.
Have you done your homework yet?
No.
What's the matter with you? Come along.
But something's wrong.
I want to talk to you.
Yes, Michelle.
Listen, Mother, will you listen to me now?
But I am listening, Michelle. Turn around while I change. Oh, my goodness, that's...
Irene and Michel have lived through the air raids over London together, so the bond between them is very intense.
That's right away. The bell rang. You go to the door. Oh, George, they're already
But
here.
now, with everything back to normal,
You go. I'll be ready in a minute.
Michel feels neglected. He wants Irene's attention all the time,
Michelle.
and he'll do anything to get it.
Listen, Michelle, you've got to stop being so spoiled, acting like a little mama's boy. If you want to know the truth, I'm very disappointed in you lately.
Oh, hello, Michelle. Where's Mummy?
I'm in here. Now, don't try to fool me. Listen, you're not a baby any longer.
I don't feel sleepy. Stay with me.
You know I can't. We have guests now. Don't be silly. You
Go away, go away. I never want to see you again.
Behave yourself,
Shame on
Michelle.
you. You're all naked.
During the war, while George was in the army, Michelle and I spent 5 years running all over England, dodging air raids.
Madam, quick! Michelle is hurt.
Where?
He fell down the stairs.
This boy who's grown up in wartime just doesn't know how to live in a world at peace.
My little man. And do you remember when Father came back home from the war?
From then on, I didn't see you as much.
But I'm with you now. I'll stay with you always. George. George! What has happened?
Don't.
Let me go in! Let me go in! What has happened? What has happened? What has happened?
He's dead. He's dead.
Michelle!
Have you had anything to eat today?
Michelle's death basically strips Irene of herself.
I'll eat something later.
Irene, darling,
She loses her reason for being.
like this, you had no sleep. You haven't had a decent meal in 10 days.
It was destiny, but why this destiny?
The first person who tries to bring Irene out of her depression is her cousin, Andrea.
If the fault was mine.
No, Irene.
Andrea, who's a committed Marxist, tries to educate Irene and open her eyes to the misery in the world.
Tell me something. Do you think it right, for example, that a child must die because his parents haven't enough money to buy him the necessary medicine? Unfortunately, this is true. A mother came to see us, begging us to do something to help her.
But why didn't you tell me this before? I can give them what they need. How can we do it? Do you want to go right away?
Can you tell me where the third block is?
This is the beginning of a change in Irene. And without knowing or intending to, she's becoming a very different kind of person. She meets the family of the sick child.
Any news?
We've got the money for you.
Bless you.
Here you are. This ought to be enough for the medicine and for the hospital expenses. If you need anything else later on, just let me know.
You've saved our Bruno's life. See how we're cooped up in this one room? There are 6 of us. But without Bruno, the house seems very empty.
I know you've been through a great deal.
But at home, her own family is very concerned.
You mustn't forget who you are.
You talk to me as if I were a disgrace, as if I were ruining the family name. I can feel you're watching and spying on every move I make, as if I were, I don't know what, crazy or something.
But you must remember, Irene, you have certain responsibilities toward the family.
Let me explain to your mother. I'm not hurting anyone. I'm only trying to find a way. Don't you understand?
When she goes back to visit the family she's helped, they're celebrating
You see, he's already looking a little better.
because their son Bruno's finally come home. She enjoys the warmth of people who simply like to be in each other's company. It's a small community of people living in cramped quarters, and there's a prostitute living next door, much to the disapproval of her neighbors. Maybe most of all, Irene simply wants to spend time with this boy who reminds her of her son. After helping one family, the floodgates open. She wasn't there for her son when he needed her, so now Irene wants to be there for everyone. Rossellini doesn't call attention to her evolution. The picture feels purely objective, almost as if it had no style. I mean, it's as if we're just walking by Irene's side, just following her emotional progress.
And now you... There, how sweet you are. Little one. Run along.
Irene spends more time around the neighborhood, and she becomes very attached to a few of the kids. She visits the home of the woman who's taken in many of these abandoned children and who happens to have 3 children of her own. Her name's Passerotto, and she's played by the great Giulietta Massina, who was married to Fellini.
No, thank you. Now listen, I have found some work for you.
Really?
Starting Wednesday.
On
Yes, in
Wednesday?
the factory.
Now, why did it have to be Wednesday? Now that you found me a job, I don't think I can take it.
Why can't you?
Well, you see, I happened to meet a young fella.
It's easy to take advantage of Irene because her need to help others is insatiable.
I mean, after all, I'm not doing anything wrong.
But you lose your job.
Oh, there must be some way to work it out.
So she agrees to take Passerotto's place at the factory for the day. But once inside the factory, Irene comes face to face with a side of life she's never known before. The tedium and pressure that most people have to go through every day just to make a living. When Irene gets home that night,
Oh, she's all right. She knows we're going to the theater.
it's as if she's walking into another world.
Oh, hello, Irene.
Oh, Irene, but...
Didn't you know they were calling for us?
Oh, dear, I forgot all about it. Forgive me, please.
How long do you intend to keep this sort of thing up?
It won't last. Believe me, it won't last. Please be patient with me just a little longer.
No. No, we gotta settle this thing once and for all. I've given in to every one of your whims. I've agreed with everything you've said. I've accepted every explanation.
What's actually happened to Irene is so impossible to imagine for her husband
And now I've had more than I can stand.
that he's convinced she has a lover.
It's perfectly clear to me what's going on. It shows in the way you act, in the way you dress, and everything you do is to please him.
Oh, George.
And so she crosses over. She leaves her husband and goes to live in the slum, cutting off all ties with her life of comfort.
I feel awful.
Now all she can see is human need. There's nothing else.
What is it?
Irene actually cares for the prostitute who's alone and who's dying of tuberculosis. And finally, it's only a matter of time before she crosses the line and gets into real trouble with the police.
You're a father! Get away from here immediately. Don't let them catch you here. You must go to the police and give yourself up. Go of your own free will. Hurry. It's the only way to save yourself.
The police are very suspicious of her.
Then I have no choice but to report this to headquarters and send you to the Mantelate.
What is Mantelate?
It's the women's jail.
They want to know how a respectable woman like her could possibly be living in a slum with a common prostitute.
She was an unfortunate human being.
No doubt, but be more explicit.
It would take too long to explain. Perhaps I don't know.
For her husband, there's just no alternative.
But why are you taking me to be examined?
Because the doctor thinks it's the best thing to do.
But I'm well.
I know.
This way, Mrs. Gerard. Just a moment. I'll be with you in a few moments. Don't worry.
It takes her a little time to figure out exactly where she is.
Where's my husband?
Right with you.
Isn't my husband coming?
He'll be here right away. Don't worry.
Is this my room?
Yes.
she understands that it really doesn't matter where she is. There will always be people in need, everywhere.
You are not alone. Don't worry. I'm with you. I'm with you. I'll stay with you.
The doctors in the asylum keep pressing her about her plans, her goals, her ideas.
Now, do you want to join a religious order?
No.
Are you a member of any political party?
No.
And what are your ideals?
My ideals are the ideals of those who need me day by day.
They keep pressing her.
Let's get to the point.
Does she want to return home to her husband?
No. If I went back home, I would save neither myself nor the others. I would only return to being what I was before. I don't think it wouldn't be easier. I want to share the sorrow of those who suffer, the pain of those who are distressed. I want to live with the others and save myself with them. I'd rather be lost with them than be saved alone. I only feel that I can belong to them when I'm free of everything else. When you're bound to nothing, you're bound to everybody. I have nothing more to say. Take me back to my room. Goodbye, George.
Rossellini doesn't condemn anyone in Europa 51. Not Irene's family, not her husband, not even the doctors who lock her away. He makes the case that society has rules, and that those rules are what define madness and sanity. That's the disturbing truth of this picture. People today only know how to live in society, not in community. The soul of society is the law. The soul of community is love. That's Rossellini in 1963 describing this film that he made about Europe in 1951. But really, it could be anywhere, and it could be now. Now, if you ever have an opportunity to see the picture, it's important to get past the imperfections in Europa 51. The dubbing of the minor characters for the English version, the official version, is pretty poor, and that's also a problem in some of the other films Rossellini made around this time. It was a difficult time in his career. He was finding it harder and harder to make movies, and the conditions were getting very tight, almost impossible. But he made the picture he wanted to make. Europa 51 is such a forceful film that it transcends its limitations.